All right, class, because, class went by so fast, I thought you could benefit from getting 2 more examples. So we're just going to graph 2 more graphs, and this is exactly how it will be asked on your midterm. So you won't be graphing on Alex, okay? You'll have to come up with the equations of given graphs on Alex and maybe state your amplitude and things like that. But physical graphing, it's going to be on a piece of paper like this. So it says example 4, we have g of x equals -3 sine of x plus pi over 2 minus 1. We first want to rewrite the equation in factored form. However, we don't have anything in front of our x, so we don't have anything to factor. So it is what it is. Okay, so I can start listing off things. So my amplitude here is, remember, it's always positive. That negative talks about something else that we'll mention in a second. Our period is 2 pi divided by what's ever attached to the x, which nothing is there, so it's just 2 pi. My midline, remember, y equals -1. Your horizontal shift will be left pi over 2. Your tick marks, take your period and divide by 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and reduce that. So I get pi over 2. Okay, so let's talk about what this negative means. Remember, this is from 111 days. It's your reflection about the x-axis. Okay. So you can fill in your domain and range now if you'd like. I kind of like to get the visual first, but sometimes it's nice because then you know if you did something wrong. Our domain is always all reals with these function every single time because we can put in any value inside here, right? It will always work. Any angle, right? Radian or degrees will work out. Now what this will spit out is, we can think about it logically. Here's our midline, right? -1. I have to go down 3 from -1. So that's why it'd be -4. And then from -1, I have to go up 3. So that's why I go to 2. That might be hard to see, but you'll see it on the graph too. But again, this is my starting point. And from there, I have to go down 3. So that's why I got to -4 and then up 3. And I got to 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to our graph. So I'm going to zoom out so I can just see all the goods. All right, so it is kind of nice too to come up with your range first, because then it gives you an idea of where to plot things, because sometimes I'll go too fast and I don't give myself enough space. So here's one. Since I'm going down to -4 and up to 2, I'm going to give myself more space in the negatives. All right, so make sure you give me a scale at all times, because I won't be able to grade it if you don't. Remember, your period and your tick marks are the thing, and your horizontal shift too, are the things that help you with figuring out what you should do. So our tick marks are pi over 2. So I like to go every other one. Pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Just to give myself a lot of space. I always go in the negative direction too. And then I'm going to go up 2. Or I did 3 actually. See, I almost didn't make it to that -4. So it's good to give yourself plenty of space. All right, so think about sine. Oh, before I even start, I really like to graph my midline, which is y equals -1. All right, so this is my sine wave. So we start at the midline, okay? Now think about this. We also have this transformation we have to take care of, okay? So when I'm here, this midline acts like your new x-axis because you've already shifted down. all right? So like we did in class, remember when we shifted left and right and we had a reflection about the y, we were going to reflect it about that shift. So I'm going to reflect about my y equals 1 line because that's my new, in a way, x-axis. So if I'm here, that's where I would originally start, but I should reflect, but I am on the x-axis, on my new x-axis, so it doesn't go anywhere. So let me back up, actually. Let me try another way. Here I would originally be, right? And then I would reflect it, but it doesn't go anywhere because it's on the x-axis. And then I would shift down 1. So there's my point. Okay, so hopefully that reflection makes sense. But now I have to go left pi over 2 units. So that goes here. So my beginning of my period starts right here. Okay. Now, if my period is 2 pi, and let me go ahead, I like to remember this is your sine wave. Well, we know it has to be 2 pi units long, and I will hit the midline again. So I know that's where one cycle will end. Now, here's the thing. And then we also talked, actually, before I go there, remember halfway between is a midline too. So let's go halfway between. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So halfway between, I hit my midline. Did I do that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. All right. So now, halfway between these 2 points, I have a high point. So I go between halfway, so, and I should go 3 up. So 1, 2, 3. So I should be here. However, so this is the thing, I have a reflection about the x-axis. So it should be down here, right? Because, okay, originally it was here, 3 up, 1, 2, 3. But I have to reflect it. And so that's why it'll be down here. And that alone gives you enough information to fill out the rest of the graph. You can be my guest and do every other point, just like we did. But we know then this one has to be a high point just by the pattern, right? And so here is one wave. But I need 2 full periods. So I'm just going to continue this pattern on the other side. And just again, so I know, because I'm moving every tick mark. So my next tick mark, if I'm at a midline here, my next tick mark, since this was a low, I hit a mid, my next one has to be a high. My next one has to be a mid. My next one has to be a low. And remember, tell your reader that that's going back up. Now we want to label some really nice points. So, okay, so this one is pi 2. This one's a good one. This is 0, -4. And it doesn't matter which ones, you just always have to label 3. And this will be like your midterm. This is -pi 2. Now here's a great way we can check to see if we are accurate. I'm going to go to Desmos like we did last class. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up what we were working on. So, all right, so my equation is -3. Make sure you're in radians always, because, right, it's pi over 2 is on that function. And whenever you're graphing, you want to be in radians. Sine, then it's my x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a random point. It doesn't matter which one. So let's go ahead and choose -pi. I'm going to add plus pi over 2. And then I'm going to close that parenthesis, and then I have to minus 1. And that is really good news because when I put in negative pi, I did get out 2. And you can check all 3 if you'd want. So that, right? So let's just check another one just to make sure. Negative 3. I'm going to put in 0. Oh, let's not forget our function. 3 sine 0 minus pi over 2. And then I'm going to minus, or sorry, it's a plus pi over 2, forgive me. And then I'm going to minus 1. And good news is I get out that negative 4. All right, let's just do one more together. Okay, so example 5. And I put another reflection in here. So first step, and again, I'm going to lead you like this on your midterm and on your worksheet number 5. So we need to rewrite it in factored form. It's 2 sine. I'm going to factor out that 2, negative 2, forgive me. So it's x. Because it's a plus, it will be another negative. And if I want this to give me out pi, it will be pi over 2. Get that terrible handwriting. I'm going to rewrite that. Pi over 2, close it. All right, so if I distribute negative 2 times x, I get negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative is a positive, and then those 2's will reduce out, so I get pi. All right, so I have an amplitude of 2. My period's always positive, so it's 2 pi divided by what's attached to this x. So you could do it here or here, it doesn't matter. But remember, it's always positive, so I get pi. My midline is y equals 1. My horizontal shift is right pi over 2. My tick marks, I'm going to take my period and divide by 4. Now, there is, let's go ahead and erase that. There is this negative business in there. That talks about a reflection. Because it's inside, it's a reflection about the y. All right. We can find our domain and range now if we'd like. Our domain's always going to be all real with these functions. Our range, well, if my starting point is 1, and I have to go up 2 from 1 and down 2 from 1, it would be negative 1, because 1 minus 2 is negative 1, and then 1 plus 2 is 3. It is kind of nice to find your range before you graph, so then if you know if anything is going below or above that, something went wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create my axes and my scale. I have to go up to 3 and down negative 1, so let's move this way. Okay, my tick marks are pi over 4. I like to go every other one just to give myself so it doesn't look so cramped, but that is just me. I'm going to go in the other direction. And then I got to go up to 3. And down to negative 1, but I'll give myself more tick marks. So once again, that whole scale business is coming from this information right here. All right. So we get to graphing. We're talking about the sign. So I like to give myself, just remind myself that sine originally looks like that, one cycle of it. So I should be starting, oh, forgive me, let's go ahead and give myself my beautiful midline. Remember, that's not part of the graph, but it helps us graph. Maybe I'm going to do that in a different color. Looks like that's kind of hard to see. All right, so sine starts at my midline, okay? I do want to reflect about the y-axis, but I am on the y-axis, so that doesn't go anywhere. Then I have to shift right pi over 2. So here I am, but I have to go right pi over 2. Remember, this is pi over 4, so really it goes right there. Now, we know this is where it starts, right? And it ends on the midline as well. So what happens here, which is kind of nice, is this is just a technique. This shift affects our reflection. So that's the thing I'm going to reflect over now. I was reflecting over my y-axis, but because it's been shifted, now I'll reflect over that pi over 2 business. So let me give myself a little bit more tick marks because the shift is really affecting how long this goes. So that's where, okay, this is where my period is starting, one period is. I know it has to be pi units long for one full cycle. So if these are quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is where one should end, correct? But I got to do that reflection piece, okay? So what I'm going to do is, if I'm 4 from here, that means I want to go 4 this way to reflect it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where one period ends. Now, we have to get, and we also know halfway between those, we also hit the midline, right? Okay. Now, I just have to know what's happening in between there, because maybe, I'm not quite sure between here if it's a high or low point, okay? So bear with me. If my original period ended here, right? But I reflected that red cross, right? That red cross went here. All right, well, then we know halfway between there, here's another one. It would hit pi, but we took care of it, but really, just so you can see it, this thing has been reflected there. So let's think about our normal cycle, okay? If we weren't doing this reflection piece, which can get confusing. Halfway between here, it would be a high point. So let's go halfway between here. I should be up to 3. Okay, but I need to do that reflection piece. So really that blue guy goes here. Does that make sense? Because remember, it was here, and then I'm going to reflect, and so then it went there. Now, here's the really nice part is, you don't want to have to do this every single time. You have enough information now to follow that pattern. So I'm going to get rid of my things that helped me get there. Well, if that's a high point, that means this has to be a low point, right? So here is one wave. And now I can just continue on. Okay, well, my next tick mark has to be a low point. My next has to be mid. My next has to be high. And hopefully that makes sense. Keep watching this if it doesn't and reach out. Now I definitely want to give myself some good points. So, looks like this guy is pi 1. This is a nice one. This is 0, 1. And then, you can give any which ones you want. I guess I'm going to do this one. This is 3 pi. Nope, that's not. That one is, what would that be? Pi over 4, 1/2, 3 pi over 4, -1. So always list 3 coordinates. You will lose points if you don't. And then to ensure that I'm doing this right, I'm going to check some points. All right, so my equation is 2 sine -2. Then I'm going to multiply it by, and I'm just going to choose a random point, okay? So I'll do that 0, 1, 0 plus pi. And then if I add 1, good, I get out 1. Let's try another one. 2 sine. Then I'm going to do -2 times. So I'm going to go ahead and put in this one. 3 pi over 4. And we should actually be able to do this in our heads. I'm just saving us time. So if I actually do that, that gives me negative, well, if I reduce that fraction right there, that will give me, let's see if I can do this in my head, -3 pi over 2, which puts us at 90 degrees. Think about that. I'm not giving us a visual, but try to get there. Sine of 90 degrees is 1. Multiply it by 2. We get 2. Something went wrong. Oh, I have to add pi. That's why. So I get -3 pi over 2. This probably is terrible to do this just auditory. I add pi to it. I can find that on my unit circle. I'm just going to do it that way because I feel like I'm going to lose this. Then I find sine of that, multiply it by 2. And then I have to go ahead and add 1. And life is good. I get out -1 like I do there. So let me just actually say, like, this one might be easier. So -2 times 0 is 0. Well, then I have just pi in there. What's sine of pi? Oh, that's 0. Multiply that by 2, still 0. And then I add that 1, I get out 1. So it's kind of cool how it all kind of relates. I really hope this helps. And you might have to check these videos out a couple times for it to click, but reach out if you have any questions.